Hi, good morning, everybody, or hello, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us this morning. Today, we're going to be talking about our response timing, how fast we are able to respond to leads, and how that response time or that uh, speed to lead, when we're able to respond quickly versus delays. What does that actually mean for our business, and how does that transform the way that we're able to win new deals, convert customers, and grow our business? And also, what is it that we're facing in terms of that challenge, and how can we build systems that can help us be a little bit more consistent in the speed at which we're able to respond to leads? So, we're going to talk about all of that here today. But first, let's have a quick conversation with my AI agent. All right, I'm going to call her up right here. All right. Hi, Zoe. This is Laura. Well, Zoe, I was just wondering, I heard that voice AI could be a really useful thing for my business, but I just wanted to find out more and how that works. Yeah, actually, that sounds like a really powerful tool. And yeah, it might be a good idea to investigate a little bit more and learn a little bit more about how that would actually work for my company. Awesome. Sure, let's go ahead and book a call. Sure, it's Laura. All right, just a moment. Okay, so then she was about to go ahead and book a call and collect my email and phone number so that she can get back to me and get me a time on the calendar. So you can see how this can be a really powerful tool, especially to follow up with leads when you may not be available to, respond 24/7. Um, you may have meetings, you might be at a conference, you might have, um, we have families, we have, we have other responsibilities. As salespeople, we have existing customers to attend to, making sure that they're taken care of. All kinds of things in our human lives that may keep us from being able to respond in a timely manner. So, we're going to talk about all of that here today. My name's Laura Camrath. I'm CEO of Zebra Marketing. And we help companies who may have incredible products and services that do incredible things for their customers, but who may not be, up to speed with, especially in today's day and age, the cutting edge new marketing strategies that are out there to really help us compete in a crowded market and be able to win the deals and grow our companies. So we help people implement modern digital marketing systems so they can enjoy predictable sales and hockey stick growth. So today we're going to talk about one of the aspects of how we can make sure that we are generating predictable sales and hockey stick growth for our business. So here we are. Oh, and please, if you're enjoying this conversation, if this is useful for you, and this is valuable information, please go ahead and like and share with your community. Drop a comment, drop a question. I will be back to check and see, if somebody has asked a question, I'll be back to respond. So please do engage with our content here, our videos, and it just helps us to engage better as a community, and just helps to spread the word. And I want to help as many people as possible to be able to grow their companies and win more deals. So please do go ahead and like, comment, share. Alrighty, so let's talk about some of these issues that we're facing as an industry. The first company to respond usually wins, and here's why. The first company to respond to a serious buyer often shapes the entire conversation, not because they're better, but just because they're first. In B2B sales, timing isn't a minor advantage, it's the difference between leading a deal and chasing one. So what actually happens when a buyer reaches out? Maybe they submit a form and, they've done online research, they've gone about their investigations to see, hey, I have a problem and I need this solved. And they wanted more information, maybe. So they submit a form because they have a problem. They're actively trying to solve something specific. And so they have a high level of intent. They're looking for a solution, but they want that solution now. We're in a very now focused economy. People are used to Amazon with Amazon Prime, direct shipping. Our expected time to respond has just been condensed. We all expect an immediate response. And we all have cell phones, and even when we're not at work, people can reach us. And it's just kind of expected now that when you want somebody's attention, that they're going to be available. And if they're not available, and if we're a customer, we might, just make assumptions about that. Maybe we make assumptions that, oh, well, if they didn't respond right away, maybe they're not a serious company, or maybe they don't have the right answer, or maybe they're not going to be good to work with, or there might be all kinds of things that we might think, but at the end of the day, we do have a problem and we are looking to solve it, and so we're going to keep looking until we find the solution. So being able to respond quickly to the lead is kind of like a pattern interrupt. It's like they're just doing their thing, going about their day, trying to solve their problem and looking for how they're going to solve that problem. And either you quickly become part of the solution, or somebody else might. So, in marketing and sales terms, we like to talk about kind of like the window is open and the window is closed. So just like when you might be, in the car buying department, say you need to buy a new car. Well, most of the time during your life, you are not in the market for a car. You have a car. The car is working fine. You use it to drive to and from work. or go pick up your kids from school, or like whatever you do with it. Um, then all of a sudden something happens. You get in a car wreck and you total your car, or the car breaks down and it's not working and it's not worth fixing, or you have a baby and now your Mazda Miata is just not going to cut it, so now you're looking for a minivan. There's some sort of change that has taken place that causes the window to open. So something has happened, something has changed, and now you're in the market for a car. The same thing is going on with your customers. There is a what we call requesting action, or a trigger. There's a trigger that causes them to say, now I need a solution. And there could be a number of reasons for that. But when that window opens, when that problem arises, or when that change happens and that trigger happens, they're now looking for a solution. So now they're starting to say, okay, it's time to start solving this problem. And they start looking, they start doing their research. So they are in market now. So buyers don't wait. When they become in market, when they raise their hand and say, okay, it's time to get this problem solved, I need help, they go about looking for the solution. And they're going to keep looking for the solution until they find the solution. Whether that be you that solves the problem or somebody else, they're going to keep looking for someone to help them solve that problem, or looking for the best way to solve that problem. So they're going to keep researching independently. They're going to look at your competitors. They're going to reach out to multiple vendors, perhaps simultaneously. And they're going to form opinions, not necessarily with your input. They're going out, and for the most part, our buyers today, they want to make up their minds and they want to know what they want without ever having to talk to you. They want autonomous decision making. And, if they really have to, then they'll set up a call. But, they honestly, a lot of people would just rather not have to involve somebody else. They want to make their own decisions. So they want to do as much research as they can before they ever have to talk to a salesperson. And the reality of modern buyers is today's B2B buyers are self-directed. They're impatient. They want the solution now. They want the answer, and they want to go do other things. They don't want to spend forever figuring out the solution to this problem. They just want it solved. They have more options and less tolerance for friction than ever before. Yeah, I mean, they can go online and they can find everybody who could possibly solve this problem. Silence isn't neutral. It's a signal that your company isn't responsive, capable, and or interested. So the customers are judging us based on what their experience is like, even when they just reach out. Like, when they reached out, did they get responded to right away? Did they get what they needed? Was your company helpful? And every minute without a response is a minute your competitors have to make their first impression. So if the buyer is looking for a solution to their problem, they're just going to keep looking until somebody answers them or somebody responds. So, wouldn't it be great if you were the one who responded first? Because, that gives you more time to begin a conversation. Now you're in a conversation, and if they're in the early stages of deciding how to solve this problem, you actually get to shape the direction of their decision-making process. So because you responded early, you jumped in early on the game, they're, still trying to figure out what should they do. And, you can come in as the expert, like, I know exactly how to solve this problem for you. Here's what we do. This is what we suggest. And, building that early trust, building that relationship, and, having enough time to really, become a partner to them, or show them that you can be the partner that they're looking for. with attentiveness and responsiveness, and showing them that you're a good partner even early on. So, this is why being first matters. It gives you time. Speed gives you more time, to get the buyer's attention. It gives you time to shape the conversation. And, time is a very valuable resource. Like, our customers don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. And, time is a very valuable commodity. Like, you cannot get more time. You can't get more hours in a day. And so, reducing the amount of time that your customer has to spend going around trying to figure out what they're supposed to do about this, builds trust. And, early responders also have the luxury of a slower and more deliberate conversation because they came in early. And so, if the buyer is thinking, oh, this is a problem that needs to be solved by the end of the month, or this is a problem that needs to be solved by the end of 3 months, or however long it is, like, gives you more time if you get into the conversation early. So it gives you time to understand the buyer, learn their specific situation. What are their challenges? What are they facing? What is actually the issue? What are the results? Why is this a problem? What is the result that's happening that is not acceptable, that needs to be changed? And then, really having the time to understand the buyer and their problem, being able to ask better questions and guide them towards clarity and towards your solution, and then guiding the conversation. Because you came in early, you get to set the tone and the criteria and the decision-making framework. You get to shape that conversation, and shape their decision-making process as they go along. So being early means that you can influence how the buyer thinks. Early stage conversations are not just relationship building, they're reality shaping. So before a buyer has solidified their thinking, you have the opportunity to guide how they frame their problem, what solutions they consider, and what criteria they use to evaluate vendors. So if you're first, you help to define all three. The problem definition, help them articulate the problem in terms that align with your strengths. So, maybe your process is, maybe you do an audit with them, find out like what actually is going on. And then the solution landscape, you can position the types of solutions worth considering, including yours, of course. And then you can evaluate the criteria. You can introduce the metrics and standards that favor your approach. So, you have more opportunity to shape your solution as the right one for them, and then be able to support it. You shape your perceived value. When you engage early, you don't just answer questions, you demonstrate expertise. You show how your teams think, or your team thinks, and then you frame your approach in a way that resonates. And that builds perceived value before any competitor has even entered the picture. By the time others show up, the buyer already has a benchmark. And guess what? It's you, because you took the time, you were there first, you were responsive to them, you understood their problem, and you offered a solution and showed them why it was the best solution. And you had time to do all of that because you were there first. So, you get to explain your unique approach and methodology. You frame your expertise with specificity and confidence. You demonstrate thoughtful consultative thinking and build credibility that compounds over subsequent conversations. And the value perception gap. Late arriving vendors are always playing catch up on value. The buyer has already formed a mental model shaped by whoever showed up first. Early engagement equals early anchoring, and anchors are hard to move. So, it's just difficult if you're getting into a conversation with a buyer when they've already made up their mind that they probably want to use someone else. that can be really frustrating because now you're spending a bunch of time trying to change their mind instead of shaping their decision in the first place. So you get to build before others show up. And trust is a function of time and context. If you're early in a buyer's journey, they're often going to be more open, more collaborative, less guarded. They're still feeling this out and deciding what to do. The first conversations feel collaborative, not competitive. There are no comparisons yet, no pricing pressure, no skepticism built from being oversold by competitors. And before comparisons, you're the only voice. There's no noise to compete with because nobody else is there yet. You're first. Before pricing pressure, value conversations happen freely without cost objections dominating. And before skepticism, buyers are more open and trusting early. That window closes fast. So when you respond late, you enter a crowded room. You are late to the party. A delayed response doesn't mean you missed a call, it means you missed the moment. By the time you reply, the buyer is already engaged with at least one or often multiple other vendors. So you're not leading, you're playing catch up. You're arriving late to the party and you're trying to figure out what's already going on versus, shaping what's going to happen. In a late entry reality, the buyer is already mid conversation with a competitor. Their mental model is forming without your input, and you're reacting to a narrative that someone else wrote. Somebody else has already shaped their decision making process, and you're trying to bend it to sort of fit your offer. So every message you send is compared, not considered on its own merit. Late entry doesn't just reduce your chances, it fundamentally changes your position from leader to challenger. And late entry leads to price pressure. When you arrive late to a buyer conversation, the dynamic has already shifted. You're no longer presenting your solution in isolation. You're being compared side by side. Your differentiation is unclear. Your value is harder to communicate because someone else has already defined the framework. The result, you end up competing on price instead of value. You end up in a competitive bid. And, you may have unclear differentiation. Without framing, you might look like everyone else. And, you didn't have time to really sell them on your differentiation, on why you offer the solution in a unique way that adds unique value above and beyond your competitors. You just didn't have time to build the case. And then value is harder to land. The buyer already has a benchmark. They're already kind of thinking about this in terms of something else, a different solution or a different way of solving it. And so shifting their perception requires far more effort. They're already kind of anchored in their mind into what they want to do about this. And you end up competing on price. When value can't be communicated clearly, or there's not enough time to communicate the value, the price becomes the default differentiator. And that's a race to the bottom. Nobody wants to be in a bidding war with competitors. And you don't know what the competitors are bidding. So, you're just making a guess, hoping that they're going to choose you, which can end up with, maybe you're underpricing your services just to try and win the deal. And most companies don't realize that this is happening. And, when deals are lost, the team might be like, oh, we just priced it too high, or the competition had a better product, or they liked it better, or the prospect just wasn't a good fit for us, or, the pitch just didn't land right, all kinds of reasons. And, that's how we explain it. And these explanations, they feel logical, but oftentimes it's not the whole picture. The hidden truth is that many deals are decided before those factors even come into play. The moment response time faltered, the relationship was already tilting toward a competitor. So postmortems rarely surface response timing as a root cause, but the data tells a different story. the iceberg of lost revenue is mostly below the waterline, invisible and preventable. So just like the Titanic, it's like you saw the little, the people, captain of the Titanic saw the little top of the iceberg sticking out of the water, maybe, but didn't realize that the iceberg underneath the water was like huge and ready to puncture the hull of the Titanic. So, um, you know, this is what's going on with our customers, that, we see sort of the little top of the iceberg conversation that we are having with them, but they've already done all of this research. They've maybe talked to like a number of our competitors. They've gone to our website, they've gone to their website, they've talked to their internal teams. All of this other behavior has gone on that we didn't get to see. And we see the conversations that we had with them, but they might have been having conversations since a long time ago. And we hopped in on it at the point, and we're just trying to pitch our thing, but we didn't maybe have the time to really make the case for our solution. And the real problem is inconsistent response. Most sales teams, it's not that they're slow, it's not that they're not doing their job. It's just that we as humans, it's human nature. We have lives, we have responsibilities, and oftentimes, like, we want to make sure that the customers we already have are happy and taken care of, and the new inquiries, maybe they don't get responded to as fast because maybe a client project came up. Maybe we went to a conference. Maybe we're following up from the conference. Maybe we took a vacation. Maybe this. We as humans, we just have things going on, and that's not our fault. It's not like it's just the reality of the matter. And so it's just a question of inconsistency. We're just not, as humans, able to always be there. And so sometimes we're fast, sometimes we're delayed, sometimes we miss the call or miss the boat, or that lead gets away from us, or we forgot to follow up, or we got busy. And if you have systems, that doesn't happen. When you have systems in place to handle that, every lead gets followed up. There's no leaky bucket of leads where somebody didn't get a response or somebody didn't get a timely response. So, the reality is that inconsistency is actually more damaging than just being sort of consistently slow. It's just unpredictable and unmanageable without having a system that ensures that every lead gets followed up in a timely manner. Yeah. So, this is just speaking to all the things that we deal with. We're dealing with meetings. Maybe we've got meetings. Maybe we have other client meetings that are already scheduled. Maybe we have other priorities. There's, I've seen this before with companies who wanted to, have their internal teams do marketing, and the internal team just never gets to it because they're prioritized to do something else with most of their time, and the marketing gets put on the back burner. Well, the same thing with sales can happen. New inquiries come in, and maybe there's other stuff going on that's critical for that person to attend to, and they just don't have time. And if everything looks like it's urgent, then nothing is really urgent. And so people can get alert fatigue. It's like, oh, another this thing. Well, yeah, I'll deal with that later. I have something else that's more important right now. So there's all the things that we deal with as humans. It's just the nature of being human. So where are deals actually lost? The gap happens between inquiry and response. And, this is where revenue disappears. It's not necessarily in the pitch, it's not necessarily in the proposal. It's in that silence between when the buyer is reaching out and when your team is able to reach back out to them. And if you're not able to get them a response in a timely manner, you know, they don't care who you are. They just don't. Like, they don't we care who we are, but all they care about is getting their problem solved. And they want their problem solved in the easiest way possible, the fastest way possible. And they're just going to keep looking to solve their problem until it gets solved. They want it to be quick, easy, painless, and they just want it solved. So why is that gap overlooked between inquiry and response? Most sales analytics track what happens after the contact is made: conversion rates, close rates, deal velocity. Almost none track the deals lost before a conversation ever began. So maybe no one entered the person into the CRM. And so the record of the inquiry was lost. Maybe nobody managed to follow up, or they followed up too late, and there's just no data on what went wrong. Maybe they didn't ever answer because maybe they'd already solved the problem by the time somebody got back to them. And then no visibility. If we don't know that there's a gap happening, we don't know that somebody's not getting followed up with, or that they were interested to begin with, then there's no accountability, because we probably actually didn't know that there was a problem, or we're not measuring that problem. So if it's not measured, it can't be fixed. And the inquiry to response gap is the most expensive blind spot in your pipeline. Because literally, like, the leads are leaking through, leaking out of the bucket without really being noticed, essentially. Okay, so this is not a people. The people, it's not that the people aren't good. It's not that people aren't doing their job. It's not that, any of that. And when this type of stuff is going on, maybe as managers, our reaction is just to tell our team, like, to work harder or respond faster or just get it done. But it just doesn't work that way, because the issue isn't their, sales reps' attitude, or if they're putting in the effort, or if they're motivated. They're just busy. They have things going on all day long. We all do. And we're being constantly bombarded with emails and inquiries and, hey, can you help me with this? Or did you get that done? Or, and, at the end of the day, we're all human. So we do have, families. We have, personal time we need to take just to be sane. Maybe we need to go on vacation. Maybe we need to take a lunch. Maybe our car broke down and we need to take it to the shop. Like, all kinds of stuff can happen in human lives. So, the issue is just capacity. You just cannot manually respond to every lead instantly 24/7 without a scope for it. And, that doesn't just go for leads either. We've also got existing customers who we want to retain. And, if we're not able to respond to them in a timely manner, or make them feel loved, make them feel like we care and we're responsive and we want to make sure that they get everything they need, we can experience churn. And so, it's the response rate on both sides, just making sure that our customers always feel attended to and taken care of. So an effort, a system where it's like effort, just pushing harder, versus actually having a system. Effort based, it just relies on human memory, availability, and discipline. It breaks under load. So, it's not scalable to just say, well, just do better. Well, try harder, put in more effort. If you don't have the time, then you don't have the time. Like, you cannot manufacture more time. or maybe you need to hire another person, but even so, then that person gets busy. So, having a system that runs automatically, regardless of your team's bandwidth, um, that can solve the problem. So it helps support the human team to make sure that when the human team can be available to have that conversation, but that the leads were all followed up with and they were attended to instantly when that person reached out and needed help, even if the humans weren't available at that time. And this is scalable. Like when you automate, when you install a system, that's scalable because it doesn't rely on how many humans and how much time we have, and whether we remembered or not, whether we got to it or not. When we have a system, it helps to support the humans in making sure that we're able to provide a high level of sales responsiveness and also a high level of customer support. So blaming people for a systems failure leads to burnout without results. So we got to fix the system, not just try and like hammer down on the people like, why aren't you doing it right? So, what does a systems problem look like? High performing sales teams don't outwork their competitors, they out engineer them. They build systems that remove the dependency on any individual being available at the right moment. And this results in instant response, consistent follow up, and zero missed opportunities. Not because their team is exceptional, but because their system is. They have a system supporting their sales team. So you get instant response. Every inquiry gets acknowledged immediately, no matter when it arrives. You have consistent follow up. Structured sequences ensure no lead goes cold due to human forgetfulness. And you ensure that there are no missed opportunities. No leads are leaking through the cracks. Every signal is captured, routed, and acted on without manual intervention. So, you have basically a 24/7 that is supporting your human sales team. So a robust response system, it's not a single tool, it's a coordinated infrastructure that ensures every buyer touch point is handled immediately and intelligently, regardless of channel or time of day. You get instant chat response. You can engage website visitors and form submitters the moment they reach out with no waiting. You get automated follow-up, structured sequences that keep leads warm and moving through the funnel automatically. We call that nurture. So, giving them a little tidbit about how to solve their problem, helping them get a little closer to the solution, and showing them how you solve problems like this for your customers. Call handling. You get inbound calls answered, qualified, and routed without human delay. And then routing and booking. Qualified leads are routed to the right rep and booked directly in one seamless step. So, everyone gets a professional conversation on the phone immediately when they want it. This can be like an AI receptionist. Say somebody calls into your business, then immediately the AI receptionist answers, which, I showed you in the beginning of the call, has a very human like quality to it. It feels like you're talking to a real person. They have a conversation with you, they answer your questions. And if you say, hey, can I please speak to Bob? It can route you to Bob. Or I need help with support. It can route you to support. It can schedule you a call with support or schedule you a call with sales. So that, say it's like 6 p.m. and your human receptionist has gone home and somebody needs help or somebody has an inquiry, that, that person still gets a highly professional human-like response. You can also do this with chat AI. Say that, say you're running digital ads. The olden times way was, you run a digital ad and you are looking for somebody to fill out a form. When the form gets filled out, they go into an email nurture sequence, and maybe a salesperson gets notified somebody has filled out the form. Um, and the person starts maybe getting some emails, or they get whatever they requested by email. But nobody reads their emails anymore. They don't. It's just, I mean, I know that you are probably coming in just like I am, like with like all these emails in my inbox, and uh like you only read the things that you absolutely have to because there's just too much in there right now. So the other problem with with a strategy like that, where they fill out the form and then they have to wait, is at the time that they filled out the form, or at the time that they responded to the ad, you had their attention. And if they are giving you their attention right now, but then you don't respond till later, that means that they are no longer paying attention to you when you respond. And so once you respond, they may ghost you, because not because they weren't interested, but just because they've gone on with their day and they're not paying attention anymore. Now they're picking their kid up from soccer practice. Now they're in a company meeting. Now they're whatever, going to lunch. There's a million reasons that now they're not paying attention to you. And so you're missing the opportunity with an immediate response from AI. AI can respond 24/7 anytime that person responds to your ad, or chats in on the website, or messages your company, or anything like that. Immediately, they can be engaged in a conversation that answers their questions, qualifies the lead, finds out what do they need help with, and books them into a call with your sales team if appropriate, so that you have your digital ads are booking you calls with your sales team, and not just like sending, oh, somebody responded to the ad, oh, that's great, now what? um, and it's a busy world out there. They might respond to your ad because, oh, that looks interesting, but then again, um, they have other things going on in their day. So maybe that's not the most pressing thing on their plate right now. And so they don't stop and engage with your content later when you respond, or engage with your sales rep, or respond when you are ready to respond. So you want to be able to respond when they are paying attention. And that is the biggest way to maximize the value of your ad spend. If you're spending money on ads, then putting them into a system where you're just waiting a bunch of time before you get back to them, it's just not working anymore. So people are busy. They want, you want to respond when they're paying attention to you. Route AI can book calls, either a chat AI or a voice AI. They can book calls in with support. They can book calls in with a sales team. So making sure that the person who's calling always feels like your business is giving them the best quality of service and the best quality of attention, and that they're being paid attention to, and that they're being responded to, showing them the love. And AI it's like this always on 24/7 team that responds instantly 24/7. Even if they chat or call in at like 1 o'clock in the morning, or say your business is international, maybe somebody's calling you from overseas, and it's not business hours where you are. Well, what happens to that person? I call companies sometimes, you know, people who I met on LinkedIn or at a conference, and they put you through like the voicemail ringer. It's like, we've all been through the like, press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 3 for your automated directory, and then like one client I called recently, it was like, once you said it, then it was like, oh, you press like the first three letters of the person's last name. So I did. Then it spelled out like the entire first and last name of the first option. So I had to listen to the entire first and last name of the first person being spelled out, and that wasn't the right person. Then it went just moved on to the next person and spelled out the entire first and last name of that person, and that was the right person, luckily. But if it had not been, then I would have had to listen to like more names being spelled out. And it's like, is someone who's calling in to make a sales inquiry going to sit through that? Like, probably not. They're just going to say this is ridiculous and they're going to hang up. Another company I called recently, it went to an automated system, and like as soon as it picked up, it just said goodbye and hung up on me. So probably like these things happen in companies just because like their phone system is not their focus. Like they're not thinking about, well, what happens when somebody calls our business number? And when in reality, like that's the first thing that a customer's thinking. Like, because that's the first experience they're having with your business. And if it's not a professional experience, if it's a frustrating experience, if it's like a rude experience, like, oh, as soon as I called, it just said goodbye and hung up on me. That's the impression that you're giving your customers. And, so it really does make a difference. Like, would you go to a job interview wearing ripped jeans and a dirty t-shirt? Like, no. Like, I mean, most people, maybe some of the people in the modern like tech world don't care anymore, and that's like a sign of being cool. I don't know, but like in the business community, for the most part, if you're going to go to a job interview, you want to be wearing a nice business suit and you want to look professional and put your best foot forward. And the same for the experience you give when people are contacting your business, either by text or chat or a phone call. You want to make sure that they are having a professional and quality experience with and feeling taken care of when they contact your business. AI can answer questions. These systems can be even better than a human receptionist because, say you hire like a young person who's not really in your business to be a receptionist. They're not going to know all kinds of different answers to like nitty gritty questions, but you can train an AI with all those answers to itty bitty nitty gritty questions. You can train FAQs. You can train it with your knowledge base. So, if somebody calls in and they're like, hey, I have the widget is plugged into the wall and blah, 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 whatever. It can, you can pre-train it with the answer to that question. Whereas a human might be like, I don't know the answer to that. You're going to have to talk to someone else. And so it can really help people, guide the person, like answer their questions. I've even heard of, say you wanted to use the AI for sales. They've actually gotten really scary good with like doing sales calls, like crushing objections, responding to people who are like, well, I don't know, let me think about it. They're actually really good at that. And also, us humans, we tend to actually be more honest with AI just because we don't feel like it's judging us. We're like, oh, it's an AI, like it doesn't care what I say. And so people can actually tend to be like more honest with an AI than they even would be with a real human. So, which is kind of interesting. But, we get to guide the conversation. So, if we train an AI for you, like we can actually train it with like how to conduct the conversation so that the conversation always follows a structured flow, that it qualifies a lead, warms them up, maybe books them into a call with your sales team. And booking them into a call, like now you've got meetings automatically filling up your calendar, and you're not having to send your sales team out cold calling or pounding on doors. You know, those those meetings are being filled automatically onto your calendar. So AI is always available 24/7, no missed calls, no forgotten follow-ups, no waiting, responds instantly. Um, it's your always on, always professional, always responsive team. And it just creates this layer of consistency that humans can't replicate. You know, no matter how good we are, you know, even if you have a real human receptionist, you know, she gets up because she has to use the bathroom and now you miss the call. And maybe you're like, well, oh, that's not like a huge big deal because she'll be back. But, you know, she stepped away. Now nobody answered the call and it went into a voicemail system or whatever. And that person who called in is like, you know, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and nobody's answering their phone. Like, you know, now they're upset. So, or, you know, it's a sales call and you miss the call and now they just move on to the competitor. But AI is not in itself. Like, it's just a tool. What we need is a system. Without systems, what we have is chaos. We don't have a plan, and we don't have, you know, the system in place to make sure that it gets handled. So AI is a powerful enabler, but it's not a strategy on its own. It's a disconnected AI tool that responds to chats but doesn't integrate with your CRM. You know, if you're having if you have an AI but it doesn't like integrate with the rest of your system, like it's not saving contacts into your CRM when somebody calls or chats in, or it's not routing properly or routing calls at all possibly, or you know, following up uh, in a timely manner. You know, with chat AI, if you run ads and somebody responds to the ad and the chat AI engages with them, but maybe they don't book a call, well, then what happens? Well, the chat AI can follow up in 1 hour, in 24 hours, in 48 hours automatically to say, hey, I'm sure you were busy. Would love to get you booked into that call. Which, you know, a human doing that would probably drop the ball just because we as humans, like, you know, we're not going to go in like 3 times and set our calendars like, oh, call this person again, like text this person again 3 times. You know, so it's a system. And without systems, leads fall through the cracks. And if you don't have a system around using the AI deliberately, you know, you can find it's just like a disconnected component. It's not doing as good a job part of a system. This is really the winning combination. Speed alone isn't enough. Visibility alone isn't enough. The companies that consistently win are responsive. They have both. They're working together as a unified engine. And they have visibility, which means they know exactly when buyers show up, what they're looking at, what signals they're sending. And, you know, no buyer enters your pipeline undetected. You know, like they start researching online, you know that they're looking for what you do. And then speed. When somebody reaches out, you can respond immediately before the buyer has time to move on or compare alternatives or form opinions without you in their decision making process. You know, every second counts. And, you know, having the opportunity to shape their decision making process can really mean a lot. So when visibility and speed operate together, you stop reacting to your pipeline and start leading it. And this is where conversion rates improve and stay improved. So, you know, we're seeing companies be able to improve their customer acquisition costs, or like reduce their customer acquisition costs, or like the cost to acquire a new customer, by 40 to 50% with this methodology. And there's a compounding effect to speed improvements. So when you know that they're researching what you do faster than your competitors, and you respond faster than competitors, it's a compounding advantage, because you know each little point at which there's an interaction, you're there, you're first, you're building trust, you're reducing the competitive pressure, um, you're shaping the decision. And so more conversations are initiated before the competitors arrive. You have higher conversion rates from engaged warm leads. You have reduced price pressure due to stronger perceived value, because you actually had time to uh, show them your differentiated value. Why are you better than the what's available on the market? How are you doing something above and beyond? And having the time to be able to show them that and build that case. And then you also have shorter sales cycles driven by early relationship momentum. If you get in there and you show them what a good partner that you can be early on by being super responsive to them, making them feel loved, you know, your sales cycles will be shorter, because they're not going into this like widespread bidding process where they're researching like 12 of your competitors and they're not sure that you're the right one. And so this results in you going from a situation where you're competing to where you're leading. You're perceived as a market leader, because in the old model, you would wait for them to fill out a form, then you would respond to the form, then you would end up in a bidding process. And you were waiting for the lead to arrive in your queue. You would respond when you had time to respond, and by then you're already in a competitive battle. You're fighting for attention, you're defending your pricing, you're struggling to differentiate. You're basically fighting against the customer's mind being already potentially made up. So it's a reactive way of operating. It's a reactive way of doing sales, and reactive teams rarely are able to become market leaders, because they're already behind in the game. They're late to the party. So what you want is the new model where you can see early buyer activity. You can see that they're out there researching for solutions like yours. You can then respond. You can send them marketing to show them, hey, we noticed that you were in market. You don't have to say that, but like, you did notice that they were in market, and now you are sending them information that is currently relevant to what they are looking for. So it's a much warmer sale, because you are reaching out to people who are already in market. They're already looking for what you do. And then when they see the information from you, like, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for, then when they engage, they become a lead, you respond to them immediately. And, you are able to get in there early, get them booked into a call, have that conversation, and have more conversations. If you're converting more people that you're sending ads to, you're going to have more conversations. More conversations typically result in more sales. So you're kind of sneaking in there, not in like a negative way, but like, you're getting in there early, navigating in, and showing up when others may not, when your competitors may not be showing up, you're there. So you get to lead the conversation. You get to shape the criteria, build the trust, all before the comparison phases begin. And, this is a proactive model, and proactive teams win disproportionately. So if you're ready to see how this works, if you're curious, how is this going to work for your company, or like, would this work for you? If you are interested in more information, companies that build response systems see measurable improvements in their pipeline velocity, conversion rates, and competitive win rates. The system exists, the results are proven, and that's left is to see it in action. All that's left is to see it in action. Sorry. So, if you want to see how companies improve response timing and close more deals, drop the word speed below in the comments, and I will show you the system step by step. How does this work? What do we do? How do we set it up? It only takes a moment, and that moment, matters more than you think. So drop the word speed in the comments, and I will get you some more information so that you can see how this might work for you. Okay, so your buyers are ready to talk. Somewhere a buyer just submitted a form. They have a problem. They're looking for a solution. They're ready to engage, but they want to solve their problem first. They want to get their problem solved and move on with their day. They don't want to spend, this is not their entire life. They just want the solution, and they want it to be easy. They want it to be low risk. They don't want to have to evaluate a bunch of things. So they're looking for, whoever shows up first is able to shape that decision-making process. It's not about whether they're going to buy. It's, are you going to be there first? Are you going to show up for them? Are you going to show them a professional experience? Show them how good of a partner you can be by being super responsive to them. So you want to see the early buying signals, see that buyer intent the moment it happens. When they start becoming in market, when they go out, start researching for solutions like you offer, you want to know about it. You want to be able to respond first. When they raise their hand and say, hey, I need help with this. First of all, once you're able to detect the early buyer intent signals, you can send them marketing. Once they respond to the marketing, you can immediately respond to them with AI that's immediately responsive and books them into a call with a human. So you're able to win the conversation. You lead the discussion. You lead the relationship. You shape the deal. You're able to close the deal with confidence because you had time to make the case for why your solution is the right one for the customer. So if you would like to learn more about this, drop the word speed, as I mentioned. There's some really interesting things and really pretty cool things that we're able to do now. And, everybody's talking about AI and what can you do with AI. But it really is that we can use as humans to get in there early, shape the decisions of our able to market to them when they're still in their decision-making process, when they're still making up their mind about what they want to do. And then when it is time for them to respond, when they say, yeah, actually, I want to talk to someone, and they respond, that there's an immediate engagement, that you're not waiting an hour or 2 hours or 2 days or 3 days. By the time you get back to them, they're not paying attention anymore. And maybe they're looking into something else now, because even in the space of an hour, they can go online and look at like 5 other different solutions or companies or competitors, and like you could have lost the sale by now. So, even in a B2B sense, this is how we are as people. We're just, we want quick responses. we want our problem solved now. We want our Amazon Prime delivery within an hour, like by drone, whatever it is. We don't want to sit around waiting for a company that we made an inquiry with to get back to us. If we get an immediate response, we just feel better about the interaction. We don't feel like we're being ghosted or that we're drifting in outer space without our problem being solved. Like we feel like, oh, they replied, they talked to me a little about the offer or the solution that they offer, and I felt like it sounded good, and so now I'm booked into a call with a salesperson. Yay! So it's not there to replace humans. It's there to support the humans in the company. It's there to make sure that we're doing a better job, that we're more responsive, that our customers are happy, that the sales leads that are coming in, that those people feel like we would be a good partner for them early on, that we're building that trust, building that rapport, building that relationship with them, getting their questions answered, crushing their objections. Objections could be, well, nobody likes to make change, and change is hard. The easiest thing for a customer to do is nothing. So the default decision for customers is to do nothing. And if they're not confident, if they don't feel like there's a resounding yes running through their head, like, oh, these guys are good, these guys are responsive, these guys know their stuff, these guys are top quality, they have a good reputation, all the things that go through your customer's mind when they're making a decision. You want to be top of the list on every one of those things. So making sure that they have an extremely professional experience, that you show up, that you show them how good of a partner you're going to be to them is really important. That you show up in your best business suit and you get there early. You arrive to your job interview 15 minutes early in your best business suit, and the employer says, wow, this person is, they are top notch. And that's the experience you want to give to your customers. And that's what we can help you with if you'd like more information. In the meantime, thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much for hopping in here. If this was a valuable conversation with you here today, if this was a valuable conversation for you, please do like, share, comment, drop your questions in the comments. If you have a question about this, I will be back to answer questions. And, giving a like, sharing it with your network just helps us engage better as a community, and helps us be able to help more people to think about these types of issues in their business, and really help people be able to get ahead, grow their companies, and be wildly successful. So again, thanks for joining me here. My name's Laura Kamrath with Zebra Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency. We help B2B companies, IT, cybersecurity, oil and gas, to be able to reach more of the people that they can serve, give better customer experiences, and implement systems that can help them be more efficient in their business so that they can grow predictably and sustainably month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. So if that's something you'd like to learn more about, drop a note in the comments, and would love to hop on a call with you. All right, so I will be back here every Thursday every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time, and we're going to be talking about all things related to getting more leads, converting those leads into customers, delivering good customer service, and making sure that our customers stick around and are retained. And that's the hardest thing about growing a business is, if we get a new customer but another customer leaves, we're not growing. So, customer retention is really important too. But please do join me here on Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. Central Time. We're going to be having some interesting conversations, and I look forward to seeing you there next week. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.